All right, good evening, everybody. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. If you are here in the US, if you are in Liberia, we say good evening to you and welcome to another edition of Liberia Shall Rise. And today is the third Sunday of the month, so that means we are going to be talking about This Could Be You. That is the segment on the third Sunday of each month where we actually bring a professional, whether from Liberia or from the diaspora. We bring a professional here who comes on to tell us their story. How did they live from here to there? You know, we all started at square zero in Liberia. I always say that. We started at square zero. Maybe not so much. Maybe some people started at number two or number three. But I always say we all start at square zero. But through determination, some of our brothers and sisters, they persevere, they push through, and they are able to get to where they have gotten in the physical world. So today we are going to be bringing a professional here who is going to be introduced here shortly, and after that, we are just going to carry the show on. It's going to be a fascinating story. I'm sure you are super excited to hear the story of our guest. So share the broadcast as we always do, and let us definitely continue to encourage and motivate one another as we try to better up Mama Liberia. So I will go ahead and play our theme song. We will come back, and our guest is going to be introduced, and we will get the show on the road. Mr. George, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing very fine, thank you. How are you, Mr. Sherry?
So far, so good. And I know you are going to be introducing our guest, so I'm just going to move aside. You introduce our guest, introduce the segment, and we will get the interview going, sir.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Liberia Shall Rise. This could be you, a program that look at Liberian in the diaspora in Liberia who are making impact in a very successful way. The stories of these guests are important because they motivate us, they inspire us, and they lead us towards success. This Today, we have another awesome guest. He is the former Minister of Finance and Development Planning of the Republic of Liberia, the former Deputy Governor for Economic Policy at the Central Bank of Liberia, and currently he serves as the Health Financing Advisor and Consultant to the African CDC Health Economics Program. I want you to kindly join me to welcome Mr. Boima S. Kamara. Mr. Sherry will be doing most of the interview because my policy, I don't interview my relative. I'm honored to have Mr. Kamara, who is my uncle, to be here on this program. Have a wonderful evening, and I'm sure our engagement is going to be awesome.
All right. Thank you, Mr. George. We really appreciate it. Mr. Kamara, Honorable Kamara. Let me rephrase that. Honorable Boima S. Kamara. Honorable, how you doing today, sir?
I'm fine, Brother Sheriff, and thankful to God that we can have this opportunity to share our story. So I'm humble and greetings to all of you in Radio Land.
Thank you so much. Look, I'm super excited to get you on the show, and I'm going to share something small before you even think that this moment is not important. This moment is super important. I remember as a kid back in Liberia, there was those days when if we heard that a minister or even a government official was coming on campus, we presented our very best, right? We
Correct.
wore the best outfit. If we have to be on our best behavior, I can still remember my principal, Mrs. Carter. She would just be like, "You guys better behave. If you miss,
SDA? Are you talking about SDA?
yes, sir."
Yeah, that's my primary education school. I attended SDA up to secondary, ninth grade, and 10th grade the war came. That led me not to continue with the SDA. I went to St. Patrick's.
Oh wow, yeah. So we came there and we were there. So you guys better be on your best behavior. If you misbehave when they leave, you're gonna get it. So
Correct.
we're on our best behavior. So actually, it is a pleasure. It is an honor to meet you, and I'm just super excited to be doing this interview with you. I know Mr. George gave a little bit of the introduction, but I would like for you to just speak a little bit about who you are, introduce yourself to the Liberian people, and tell us who you are in the capacity you've held in the past and what you currently hold, just by way of introduction.
Thank you, Brother Sherry. Boima Kamara is a guy from a modest background. I was born in Morovia Maternity Center in May 9, 1974.
Hmm.
And since May 9, 1974, this life of mine has gone through several phases and glory, all honor be to God.
Yeah.
So I was born to parents, both of whom they didn't have the opportunity to attend formal school, right? So in our way, we come from a background of both parents not being formally educated. So I'm careful at my words. Formal education does not mean our parents are not educated.
Absolutely.
So not having formal education not necessarily translate into not being people of wisdom and class in their own world.
That's right.
Because if you see us, the things we do today should be just a signal of what they could do even better if they were presented the opportunity to go to school. But that's my story. I started off this life on May 9, 1974. My mother sell potato grains in the marketplace, Raleigh Market, and she worked as a janitor at the Temple of Justice, where at my most of my youthful life, as a kid growing up, as the old man go to the Temple of Justice to clean, and she said her little kobo, we had to put the kobo on our head and
Wow.
walk from Fifth Street, where I was birthed and grew up in Sinka. So everyone who knows me from Fifth Street Sinka in Morovia, and then also from SDA, prior to the war, I was called Sekou B. Kamara. I was actually Sekou B. Kamara, Sekou Boyman Kamara. I will tell you why the name is no longer Sekou B. Kamara.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. But that as the story goes, my father was a driver. He worked for the Ministry of Agriculture for all of his life. And when he retired, you can guess what? There is no pension befitting those years of service. Where my father, before he died in 2005, he would wake up in the morning he said, I'm going for my late pension money. And you guess how much was that?
Hmm.
200 Liberian dollars.
Wow.
And you're talking about a period around 1993, 94, 95, 96. But like I said to you, my mother, she was the one with whom we spent most of our years. All right. She took care of us. And I just want to honor her on this show. The resilience of a parent, irrespective of the fact they didn't have formal education, but she was determined. She said, that which I did not learn, I will sell the last potato grain and make sure, I will sell the last kobo and make sure you people get to be formally educated. Yeah. And our beginning was a beginning from Fifth Street. We walk every morning with food on our heads. I would tote food, you know, as a kid and walk to Temple of Justice, put that food down and walk to Camp Johnson Road, SDA, from 3rd grade up to 9th grade. All right. And you're talking about between the period from 1983 up to 1989. So that's the routine. And we were not privileged to have 3 meals a day. The food we took on our heads and took to Temple of Justice is that same food. In the morning, you will eat rice. In the evening, you come back from school, you will eat rice. When you go to bed, if you eat anything, it will be rice. Okay, so that's just to tell you the story of who this former Minister of Finance, coming from a place where someone may say from a place of nowhere to a place of somewhere. And it must be God.
Wow.
But it has to do with perseverance also. That the Bible says, whatsoever thy hands find it to do, do it well. And that's Ecclesiastes. It comes from the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 9, verse 10. And it said, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. For in the realm of the dead, where you are going, there is neither working, nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom. So we had to walk every morning, go to school, come back. You stop to Temple of Justice, take the pot again and put it on your head and walk back Jarlastown Hill. And you will walk through the University of Liberia campus, will jump over the fence and come down the hill. And sometimes, oh, children, and when the food doesn't finish and there's a leftover, you carry it home. You will stop, we will climb and jump down behind the University of Liberia fence. We'll start around the hill and we'll open the pot and eat some.
Well, I think this is going to be a beautiful storytelling, just to kind of go into your life. I think you started already by kind of telling us just a little bit about your own childhood. So, because most of the times what we hear from our viewers or people who listen to this particular segment, they would kind of say, well, that man was born into a very good family.
The tablespoon was in his mouth.
That man was born into a good family. They were able to go to private school, but some of them don't have that opportunity. And so I think hearing your story actually put things in perspective for other people. You walk the streets of Monrovia, you carry a football on your head. But one thing I got to say, though, I think service has never been out of your family. I think your parents, they actually brought you into that particular realm where, there was no, I got to tell you just a little bit of this. To get my high school degree, but from 10th grade to 12th grade, I couldn't afford the tuition at SDA High School. I wanted to stay there. So I was a janitor. But the biggest thing about that particular work, I was so ashamed of it in some way that none of my friends knew about it. I would not tell anyone. I just carried myself, did my thing, and I walked away. And so it appears to me like in your case, you didn't care. You had that here from 5th Street, Temple of Justice, go to school, come by in your uniform, grab it, and take it back home.
And you can imagine it was not just 1-2 years, Augustine. You can imagine that was before the war. After the war, I shifted from SDA to St. Patrick's. And similar to your story, I was a cleaner of the bathroom to just get scholarship after school.
Wow.
While our friends are going home, I had to stay back to go and clean the toilets just to make sure tuition was paid.
Wow. So let's get down to I mean, from this humble beginning, you can see that your parent, I mean, especially mom, she wanted to make sure that you receive this formal education, you get this degree that she was not able to obtain. So apart from that, what was some of the drive factor that really drove you to say, you know what, I'm going to try to push a little bit more. I'm going to try and not just settle for BSc. I'm going to settle for something a little bit more. What was that driving factor?
What drove us? The motivation is that we live in a community. We live in a community where our neighbors and their children, they were well off. All right. Many times we will see them travel to America, and sometimes you will see we didn't afford to even have TV in our homes, and
Mm.
sometimes we'll go and stand into the windows at times, and water will be thrown at us. So you go home, and your poor children, you move from here, and to the extent sometimes we're ridiculed. And just looking at that, I was inspired, and I said I had to come into agreement with my mother. But just to say one thing my parents did for me
Mm.
is that at an early age, I was introduced to Jesus Christ. And that played a major role in my response to life. You never gave up, irrespective of where you were born. So you are not defined by where you were born,
Mm.
but you are defined by your resilience to the obstacle that must encourage you and say, I can surmount the insurmountable. I can make it. When others are saying, you guys, you'll always be poor, you must dare them and say, if they are not the creator of your life, but Jesus, the Father in heaven Almighty, is my creator, then who is meant to say a thing and it comes to pass when God hasn't said it?
Mm.
So my whole life, and to the extent from third grade, Augustine, I was then privileged to have a study class teacher. I would come home and across the road, go behind, at the time then where you have the NPP headquarters was the Ministry of Agriculture, 5th Street. I would cross the
Mhm.
road and go on the beach and sit and say, Lord, may you by your Holy Spirit teach me.
Wow.
And that's how I studied by myself. And from third grade, you ask my friends who were in SDA, you ask them for Siku B. Kamar, ask Mrs. Carter about me. I do my class from third grade up to when the war came. And I got a double promotion in 1988, 89. From 7th grade, I ended 1989 in 10th grade. And
Mm.
it was that transition that year, 1989, and 1989, December 24th, the war started in Liberia. I remember that well. And I had my academic cards, my grade card, and awards. We stuck those things in some of our loads. 1990 came, the war started. We were running into red light.
Wow.
We got into Duporo, crossing into um, Soul Clinic. Several bodies all around in that swamp.
Mm.
Ask anyone who crossed in Duporo to go to Soul Clinic. There was a swamp. There were several dead bodies after the NPF overran Oro, and we had to flee. Crossing that place, I was caught and tied, Augustine,
Wow.
because of my name. Because then it took a tribal line that the Mandingo people or the Muslim were in support of those. So the rebel felt that any other person of Kamara or a Muslim name, you were branded an enemy to MPFL. And that's how I was caught and tied at the age of 16, 1990, and about to be killed. I was on the ground, and it said to my Oma, you people are dope people because yeah, son card here, the man are Mandingo man. His name is Sekou B. Kamar.
Mm.
Augustine, I was about to be killed. But one of them came where God sent this guy from. And he said, why you got this little boy on the ground? They said, oh yeah, the men are Mandingo men and the dope people.
Mm.
And they said, what's the evidence? And then the guy showed my card. That card on it, Augustine, nothing less than 9,900. And he took it. And he said to the one who tied me. He said, "Have you been to school?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Look at this card." He said, "Do you see any red mark on this card?" He said, "No." He said, "You are about just to kill one of our future leaders, Augustine." That's just the exact word.
Wow.
He said, "Cut the stone from the piggy hand." He said, "Get up, my piggy, my friend." He said, "From this moment onward, in anticipation that everything was going to go their way,"
Wow.
he said, "when the war ends, come to ERBS and I will give you your documents." And that's how God saved me. And from that time, my father is called John David. He was called John David, but he named us after a Muslim who reared him and paid homage because he was the person that gave him life,
Sure.
took him from a place of nowhere and then supported him throughout his life. And that's how he chose to honor. And in my case, he gave me the man's full name, Sekou Kamara.
Wow.
And that's how I'm called. I was called Sekou B. Kamara before the war in SDA. So if you ask Mrs. Carter, she will tell you. She said, "I know that guy."
Wow.
And that's how I was saved. And when we crossed the line into Soul Clinic, anybody who called my name, say Sekou Kamara, I said, "No, don't call that name yet. I'm Boima S. Kamara." And that's how,
That's how the name.
yeah, that's how they shift.
Does the S still stand for Sekou?
Sekou, yeah, Sekou, yeah.
So,
It's still changed.
all right.
Yeah, I didn't change it.
That's it.
And,
So now,
yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
And that's how we crossed. And the war subsided. We came back. That's how I went to St. Patrick's and graduated in 1993, 94 as the salutatorian. This was the guy who was cleaning bathroom on campus, but yet committed himself to hard work. And this is what I want to say to somebody. Don't give up on yourself. Irrespective of where you come from, your parents could be poor. They may not have formal education. Don't despise your parent. Humble yourself, yield to them, support them. Thank God for them and honor them. Because when they say unto you, son or my daughter, go ye in the world and be blessed, they don't need money from us. All they need from us is that recognition that you gave and say, "Man, I thank God for you. I bless God for you, man. I thank God for you, Daddy, that God used you to bring me forth into this world," because there are several millions of persons whose life were aborted through abortion, but we survive. That's a gift. This life is a gift. But that's the story of the guy who was to be killed and survive.
Yeah.
Especially in the war.
And as I listen to your story, I can't help but think, this is a beautiful story playing on the screen, and it can be a movie script and all of this, because some of this, when people don't know, they will really not believe the story until they hear it from someone like yourself who is telling the story. So how did you make it? Now you are out of St. Patrick's and now you are thinking about higher education. It is very common, this is right after the war. Most people, they get the high school diploma and they say, you know what, at least I got, the way some kids used to be like, at least I got my
I got high school paper, yeah.
Yeah, at least I got
I
a high
finished
school
12th grade.
and I finished 12th grade. Now I can go start selling my Dunga Flare or something. But you wanted more.
Yeah.
What was that drive factor? Where did you get in your life?
When I saw my mother and father, father is a driver and just can barely make ends meet. My mother struggled in selling kobo or even going to Radita and selling beta ball, potato grains. I came out of high school, the salutatorian, and one thing in me is the gift of the ministry of song. I sing. I was blessed with the gift to minister. So I was in the praise and worship, in the choir, Philadelphia Church Ministry International with Bishop George D. Harris. That's like a father to me. I grew up with them. And the other side to me is that the old man took me and gave me to Bishop Harris and Mother Harris and said, "They want your son." And I will go to the home every Saturday morning and I will wash their children clothes. I will serve. I serve those people. I serve them as my parents. I honor them because they are fathers in the Lord. They are our spiritual parents. And I'm saying to somebody, if you don't know how much it pays to serve, honor people, honor your pastors, honor your parents, serve and do it with all your heart. And this is how I got my scholarship into the University of Liberia.
Wow.
I woke up that morning, took the food. Can you imagine the guy graduated again from high school where you stay toting pot? It
Yo,
is
that's
that.
so cool. Wow.
Yeah, still selling Kobo. And walking in front of St. Patrick's, where my friends will see me. Some of them will see me in the morning. But I said, no, I would do this unashamed.
Hmm.
Because it was difficult to find cars some morning to put the food in the car. You're standing on the road, it would take hours. And early in the morning, people will buy the food. So then I would say to myself, why stay? I got legs. I thank God. So I put the pot on my head and walked that morning. I was on my way to go to a computer class, Augustine. But the woman said, my son, it rained. Please go in the cold room. Please go in the cold room and wipe the water on that floor. So I put the food down and people were buying. So at least I went in time. The customers were there and she started selling. But she said, go clean the floor. And before you can go for your computer class. As I entered that cold room, Augustine, I was not paying attention who was around me. But I took the mop, took the bucket.
And
And as I went,
Honorable Kamara, I'm so sorry to interrupt you here, but I just want to bring some of our viewers who are just joining us, bring them up to speed. And so your mom, she is selling food at the Temple of Justice.
yeah.
And here you go, a high school graduate, just graduated, and you had just brought this food to the Temple of Justice for her to start selling.
Yeah.
And she now tell you because her
Yeah.
work there was janitorial.
Yeah, to clean the cold room. Yeah.
And so she asked you to clean the cold room for her that morning. So please.
It rained that night, and the cold room was flooded.
Wow.
And when I put the food down, I took my file and I said, "Oh, I go for my computer class. I don't want to be late." She said, "I hope you may not get late, but please go wipe the water first before you go for your class."
Wow.
But this was before then. I was praying, God, how will we pay my tuition in the University of Liberia, Father? I said, may you supply, make a way, because my mother is trying her best just to feed us.
Yeah.
She will not be able to sustain me for the duration of 4 years in the University of Liberia. But I took that bucket and in obedience, I went to that floor. As I bowed down and I was wiping the floor, I don't know where the Spirit of God just prompted me to minister. What shall I say unto the Lord? All I have to say is thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. All I have to say is thank you, Lord.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you.
Not knowing there was a counselor seated in the court. He noticed me. And he asked me, son, where are you coming from? Because many of your kind, they will not submit to do what you are doing and do with all your heart. And you are sinking, you are ministering, you're not vexed. You're not complaining, oh, no. But you are doing this with grace. He said, are you in any choir? I said, yes, I'm in a choir. I said, I minister as a chorister and I'm in the Philadelphia Church Choir. And he said to me, are you in school? I said, I just graduated from St. Patrick's Salutatorium. And he said to me, have you sat the entrance? I said, yes, I sat and I passed. And he said, I say to you, son, you have for yourself full scholarship.
Wow.
That's how that was a transition in my life. And when I entered the university, my mother didn't have to worry about paying school fees. So the message there, you may not know where your blessing is going to come from. Just obey the words of your parents. Because that is the key that unlocks the door that you have prayed to God for. Give me, how will I pay my tuition, Lord? I'm still told in part. My mother can afford. She's doing all she can just to sustain us. But that was the breakthrough in my life for a full scholarship at the university. And peace be to his arches, his counselor Crickle. And after he said that, I didn't fold my hands and say, thank you, Pop. And I just went to him, shook my hand. Every other time, Pay my school fees. I came for the school fee you promised me. But I will go to his home and wash his clothes, serve his family, his children. They were living every shortcut. When you pass Good Shepherd in Fiamma, there is on that hill, the fence to your right by the Good Shepherd, opposite Good Shepherd, there's an upstairs building. By that upstairs building is where sometimes I will walk from Fifth Street and walk to the homes, like most weekends, just to serve them.
Wow.
His wife, his children, and sometimes teach the children. Yeah.
All right, Honorable Kamara, let me just take a short break here, so we can get ourselves back on the road. I'll take a short break, and we'll be right back to continue the conversation with Honorable Boima S. Kamara.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Love is all we need to make a stand. This is the time to come together. Keep Liberia safe forever. So open up your heart and let the unity begin. Love is all we need to make it stand. Let's cultivate one another. Learn to live together as brothers and sisters. Without togetherness, we won't have a peace of mind. Unify and have a peaceful, sweet Liberia.
All right, welcome back to Liberia Shall Rise. And today we are having the segment This Could Be You. And our special guest today is Honorable Boima S. Kamara, former Minister of Finance and Economic Development in the Republic of Liberia. And I think as you listen to his story, hopefully the story is inspiring someone, it's giving someone hope. I think this is exactly why we do this segment. We call it This Could Be You, because many times we find ourselves in a situation where we feel like, we are all alone, the whole world is against us, our suffering is greater than everybody else, and we just fold our hands. But as you listen to these stories, I just hope it will resonate with you, and it will give you hope. So let me bring my honorable guest back on so we can continue the discussion here. Um, Honorable Kamara, so we have about 20 minutes left, so we want to take this next 20 minutes talking about service. I just introduced you as the former Minister of Finance and Economic Development in Liberia. So let's talk about that a little bit. What year was it? During which administration did you serve? And what led you in that direction of serving the Liberian people?
Uh, I was always inspired as a child growing up and serving, and like most of the people at the Temple of Justice. So when they come and buy the food, they say, "Bring my food to my office." The other person say, "You say, bring my food." So they call me the Kobo baby. Okay, so most of my brothers, my uncles, I can call them parents now at the Temple of Justice. When they see me, they say, "Hey, yeah, look at my that baby." Yeah, yes, look at this baby. Because when I became Minister of Finance or Deputy Governor in the South, even at the University of Liberia, where I teach as an instructor, I say, wow, see life, how it can be when you choose to humble yourself and learn and be respectful. So fast forward, I will just take maybe 3 minutes and I will just summarize a whole lot. So after we transitioned from St. Patrick's into LU, 7 years because of the war. A period I want to have taken maybe just 3 years or 4 years in my case. And I thank God for the blessings of knowledge He's bestowed upon me. And I say this to the glory of God, that I would teach many of my colleagues. Entered the university, I majored economics and minor mathematics. I was a science student coming out of St. Patrick's. My goal was to do medicine, become a medical doctor. But the conditions there and then, somebody said to me, "You go to do that, just know that you got your mind, your power, they will be with you for years."
Exactly.
But I said, I'm going to balance it out. So I got a counsel from Councillor Nicholas Edwards. He said, I can't do economics and still maintain your mathematics. That's how I did econs and major mathematics, minor mathematics, and graduated in 2001 summa cum laude, and the president of the graduating class. So if you see any of us who belong to the golden class, I serve as that president. Again, what an honor to serve. And then when we graduated 2001, December 19, we graduated 2001, March of 2022, 3 months after, we got employed at the Central Bank of Liberia. How? Thank God for Governor Saliba. On the basis of merit, he shortlisted all of us who came from the University of Liberia on the basis of our honor. So Suma, Magna, and Kum shortlisted 33 of us. Wow. And that's how we went for interview and got employed with the Central Bank. And from there in 2002 March to May 2016, in May of 2016, so 14 years of my professional life was through the Central Bank. I rose from analyst to economist, assistant director for research, director for research policy and planning, and then in 2014 became deputy governor for economic policy, served for 2 years on a tenure position that should have been 5 years, but the president saw a fit to call me to serve as Minister of Finance for Liberia and appointed me as minister in 2016 May, and I served for 60 months that ended the administration of President Sirleaf in December of 2017. That's my track record of public service. So my entire years as a professional was almost 90% with the Central Bank of Liberia. 2 years, let's say 18 months with the Ministry of Finance. And after we ended in 2017 December, turned over, I was still not satisfied. I came back to school. So I did a second master. So my first master was at the University of Ghana, Legon. In 2005, I left the Central Bank and asked for study leave. In 2005 and 2007, I came back, completed, and got a MPhil, Master of Philosophy Economics, and with specialty in advanced econometric theory, monetary economics, international economics, and health economics. But I only used 3 of my concentration areas and left health economics. I didn't use it much. Came in 2018, started my master program at Johns Hopkins, and then got my second master of science, applied economics with concentration in financial economics, advanced financial econometrics in May of 2020. So and then since then,
go ahead.
I've been fortunate to serve as advisors. So international consultants, I serve as an international consultant for 1 year with the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, regional office in Niger, Yami. So I served there 1 year with the colleagues at the UNECA office in Yami. And then that ended. And again, I'm blessed. I served at the West Africa regional level. But now I'm privileged and honored, and we thank God to be serving at the continental level. I serve the continent of Africa now at the African Union, Africa Center for Disease Control, Health Economics Program as the Health Financing Advisor. So this is the story of the guy born into a parent whose mother and dad not formally educated. And the 9th child in a family of 9, I am the last. But the Lord has honored my family. My mother can no longer sell Kobo. If my father was alive, he would no longer be somebody's driver. That's the redemptive gift God can bestow upon one person in the family if you just submit to serving God and walk in fear of the Lord. And that's why I say this is what Liberia needs. Liberia needs men and women who will fear God, and he shall bestow upon them the wisdom for life, for leadership, and Liberia shall transform. So I'm currently leading the social contract movement in Liberia currently, that we are looking at all of the issues regarding how the state of our nation can be transformed. Firstly, by our return to the Lord, fear God, and then also use our gifting. In my case, the fiscal space and the monetary space of Liberia, that's something now I can wake up. You ask me any question about fiscal policy or monetary policy of Liberia, institutional memory, God has blessed me with. And it is that gift now we are using to give back. As we go into election, we've done some evidence-based research on how we have spent as a nation, as a people, and how can we try to educate our brothers and sisters who may not know what's happening and interpret the data in a way that they can understand in simple layman English that in 12 years under President Seli, this is what happened. We generated 4.8 billion through revenue collection. But as a nation, we ate 4.4 billion, that is 90.4% of that, just on salary, traveling, consumption, trade, goods and services. You buy cars, you give gasoline allowance. We are eating our way into poverty. And God said to me, you got to rise up and lead a movement on the basis of evidence, void of politics. Look at the issues and advise government on the way forward.
So,
And
so
that's
let me
what we
let
have
me
started doing.
so let me come back to that. But I really want to spend the last section of our discussion here on the social contract. But I want to go back to your 16 month in office at the Ministry of Finance.
Minister of Finance.
Yeah, even though your tenure there was short lived, 16 months, you would have loved to have 6 years or 12 years to be able to put some policies in place, because 16 months, you just get in. By the time your feet getting established, things happen.
He's done, yeah.
You out. So, what were some of the challenges, in your opinion, when you entered the office? You took over that particular office. What were some of the challenges, or what were some of those things that kept you awake at night thinking about financial stability of the Republic of Liberia?
How the life of people, the life of the ordinary citizen can be transformed through the policy decision we took at the Ministry of Finance in terms of government spending, expenditure, and what have you. But I took over at a very difficult time, meaning the administration was almost ending.
Mhm.
And then a big shift comes that shakes your foundation from your place of comfort at the central bank. It's a tenure position, it's a professional space where you cannot be sacked until by cause of incompetence, and stay hired 3 more years of being a deputy governor. But the president said, I'm taking you out. You got to move. I forfeited salaries. The salaries I was getting at the central bank was not the salary I was going to be receiving as Minister of Finance. Other benefits you forfeited. And to the extent you could be dismissed now as a minister at will, at the will of the president.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but these are, when I left the central bank and went to the Ministry of Finance, it was a talk of war. I was perceived as a man who feared God, and I will not go as with business as usual. So the first 3 months of my stay, I was almost killed for just standing up to say, let's do the right thing for our nation and stop stealing. Don't steal government money. Don't steal government revenue. Don't be at the Ministry of Finance and be involved in financial malpractices, economic crimes. I will not support you in that. So I was fought. I received non-cooperation from all of those I met, to the extent I was not only resisted physically, they did all sorts of satanic stuff. Some of the mornings I would walk in my office, you see blood and other stuff all over the office. But God kept us. God kept me. And it's like, in the first 3 months, you speak to me, Augustine, sometimes it's like I'm off. I will not understand what you're saying to me.
Wow.
It was demonic. I was on a severe demonic attack. And later on, I realized it was intentional, that some people intended to either kill me or force my hand to resign. But God kept me. And after the first 3 months, the second 3 months, going to the end of 2016, God miraculously, what we started doing is that now 6 o'clock, I had to wake up in the morning, get a few of my other prayer partners, we go to the ministry. We say, if you didn't kill me, you will never kill me again. But I will invite the presence of God in this ministry. And we'll offer prayer by 6 a.m. in the morning before I start work, early Monday morning. And from there, I call up general staff meeting. And later on, things change. The environment over my head changed. And I instituted 2 audits of the government. I audited the IFMI system, that which is used for the transaction of the budget, allocations, and what have you. I say I wanted to know what was in that system to know what I was inheriting. I was not just going to sit on a system that I didn't know about and people run circles around me. I audited that system and we found close to around 2 billion in questions that people supposed to be answering to. I also audited the debt management system to make sure if we are paying debt, why and to whom were we paying? Were they valid? So just to make sure there was some check and balance, I audited that system. And those reports, I just couldn't complete everything I started doing, but we did the first round, and the second round of the audit was concluded. The report compiled. I was waiting to turn over to the incoming Minister of Finance, Minister Samuel Twe.
That's why, yeah.
But again, sad, I would say, Augustine, I served my nation, but I was not respected as an outgoing. There was no turnover ceremony at that ministry. Until this day, since I left on the 20th of December, 2017, 2 days to inauguration, the Monday. So you see, I'm calling exact dates. I'm sitting in my office preparing turnover notes, everything. But that guy walked into that ministry and never honored me. No turnover ceremony. So I left those documents. I don't know what to do with it. Today, and that would have been an instrument that you're supposed to use to then call for some people to be questioned. But that's Liberia. But now I have vowed that no longer you hear me silent again on national issues, because the Holy Spirit woke me up 3 weeks ago and say your nation is going to election again. And your nation needs you. Your nation needs what you carry in you. You have to take it out of you now and make it plain. And so it took me almost 1 week when I woke up from bed and started to do this compilation of the budget from previous administration, 2006, under President Salif, and see how did we perform even under President Salif. And I can say some good things were done, but not every good thing was also done. There was some wrong judgment, especially on how we spend government revenue. 4.8 billion generated in 12 years under President Salif. And 90.4% that is 4.4 billion, 4.3 billion we just use on salaries. We spend our way into poverty. And then we're asking God, what's happening to Liberia of a population size of under 5 million? And we can leap into the development ladder of becoming either a middle income country where all of our people, if we just do it well, Liberia cannot suffer. The same picture under President, we are in 6 years. The revenue, the data shows 3.5 billion we've generated through revenue mobilization. Again, almost 90%, 3.1 billion of that we spent on salaries, consumption, goods and services, and not investing in agriculture, not investing in health, not investing much. Everything we gave to agriculture, health, almost 90% again is on salary. That means government is overburdened with being the employer for the citizens, when in fact the private sector is supposed to be the place for job creation and job growth. So government, your place is to create an environment for the private sector to thrive. How can we, in 12 years, give agriculture 60 million? Well, in that 60 million, almost half of it is on salaries.
Wow.
Under President Weah, agriculture is like the stepchild. Around 26 million, 25 million is on salary, goods and services. Only 1 million on capital expenditure for agriculture in 6 years. It has to stop. Our lawmakers, 103 individuals, 73 in the House of Representatives, 30 in the Senate. Senators making around nothing less than $12,000 a month. House of Representatives, they make nothing less than $9,000 a month. When in fact, in Ghana, the MPs that make nothing more than 3,500. In Sierra Leone, the MPs make nothing more than $1,000. That's 20.5 million leon in the case of Sierra Leone. Cote d'Ivoire, now more than $4,000. Nigeria, around 15,000. Why should Liberia, that in no measurable term, be close to what the salaries lawmakers make in Nigeria, Africa's largest economy and 6th largest producer of oil globally in the world? Something has to change. Our leaders now will have to hold them going forward On the way you spend public money has to change. The way you allocate it to yourself has to change. And even this recast budget for 2023, as I look in the approved budget, under the pro tem, the office of the pro tem, there is a line 26 called grant.
Mm.
And that's only for 2023 that number exists. And they say for legislative committee hearing, they put 1.13 million United States dollar on that line. It was never there in 2022. It was never there in 2021. And then you can give agriculture sector just the same amount in 6 years, when in fact you can put it on a line in 1 year. It tells us it has to change.
So let me go back. Let me go back to your office real quick as we are about to close this interview. And to our viewers, we are speaking with former Minister Boima S. Kamara, former Minister of Finance and Economic Development, who inherited the office 60 months. So you can probably look at it as a lame duck year, because the administration was on the way out when he took the office. So let's go back to your office and look at what was happening based on what you inherited when you took over the office in 2016, based on what you saw, based on the things that you look at. Do you see a way out that Liberia can be a country where each and every one of us, even the young kids selling plantain chips on the sidewalk, the kids still selling, pushing wheelbarrow to sell something? Do you see, just based on the numbers you look at, based on our finances coming into the country, did you see anything that you could look at to go back and say, wow, we can make it, kids can go to school, and teachers can get paid, and there will still be surplus in the country?
And this is why I noticed under a difficult period, when I enter, there was a fiscal rule already in place, because again, globally, we're impacting on our primary commodity export, the price of rubber down, iron ore down on the world market, so lower revenue coming in, expenditure high. So we had to introduce an austerity measure. So fiscal rule was put in place. I couldn't travel for more than 3 days. And if I'm traveling, not more than 2 persons will accompany me. And I had to travel economy, not business class, as a Minister of Finance. So the rule only allowed for the President, Vice President, the Foreign Affairs, the Speaker of the House, and the Pro Tem. Those fiscal rules were in place. No new hire in government. So a freeze was placed on hiring new personnel into the public service. Those were some stringent measures we had to take. And so it was a really difficult time. However, how do you even manage the little that was coming in terms of making sure expenditure decisions were smart? So what we instituted in terms of safeguard, I said the system already is shaking under me, people trying to undermine me. So I had to go into an MOU with the former governor then, Milton Weeks.
Yeah.
And we signed an MOU. I said, these are just safeguard measures. We stop overthinking things too much. And we say, any check that comes for encashment at the central bank that is not on a list that you'll see my signature, and that of the Controller and Accountant General don't honor. So that which appeared to be so simple was a major instrument that God used to save the system from the leakages that were taking place. Syndicate between Ministry of Finance, Central Bank, and the commercial bank. People can just walk away with millions of dollars out of that system.
Wow.
So in 3 months, close to 80 million United States dollars was saved.
Yeah.
And I reported to the presidency, asked, how did you do this? And that at least allow people to take pay on time. And my approach with the partners, and they saw transparency, they saw accountability, and therefore we had a very cordial relationship with the international partner. Every month we met once, and in every quarter we met twice. I sit on the table and I tell you, this is what I'm bringing forth to the table, and can you match it? So like during the election year in 2017, we didn't struggle to pay to meet the demands of NEC in terms of ensuring a peaceful and a successful election was held with appropriate funding for the National Election Commission. So I'm just saying, if we can just stop stealing, you go to public office not to enrich yourself. I could have walked away with millions of dollars as a Minister of Finance. But I owe it to God, and I said, what will people say about the Church of God that God has elevated me to this position. If I turn my back on God and try to enrich myself for only my belly and my own family and forget about the Liberian people, then curse, woe be unto me. But I said, no, Father God, I stand in defense of the name of God. May I leave this office and leave this office clean without any dirt or trace on my character in terms of compromise. And that's how we have asked God throughout my life. And God has exalted me to the place I am even now. Who have ever thought a guy who was walking and taking part even through the universe of Liberia, see where God can take you when you humble yourself and seek his way. Fear him, turn from your wicked ways. He said, then I, the Lord, will hear from heaven, will forgive, and I will heal the land. Liberia needs leaders who will fear God most. And then Liberia shall return. Your glory shall return. And as I speak to you, we're part of now a daily prayer network led by Reverend Jackson Tube. Every 12 midnight, we stand as sons and daughters on behalf of Liberia, praying for change. But in the same token, I am going to make myself available as one of the contenders in the next election. Too much has happened. We can't sit and fold our hands. So I'm calling on all of us in the church, all well-meaning Liberians in the diaspora. The time has come. We should stand up for change. And let us be the Martin Luther King for Liberia. Let us be the Nelson Mandela for Liberia. Let us be the Malcolm X for Liberia.
See, I'm not going to gloss over this real quick. I think this is breaking news. And so, let me just go back and reintroduce you. We are speaking to former Minister of Finance, Minister Boima as Kamara, who inherited the office back in 2016 during the lame duck years of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. And Honorable Minister, I know we are kind of closing here. We have passed the 1 hour mark that you gave us, but I don't want to gloss over this. Now, just to make sure you were correctly understood, are you talking about this election 2023 in this October, or are you talking about the next election to come that you're going to be?
So for 2023 election, I'm not going to vie for any political office, but I'm supporting the candidacy of Vice President Boika. I gave my support to him. I don't belong to any political party. All right. And that's just me. I've been a technician all along my life. But I think God is saying the time has come for us to shift our horizon for nation. And this is what Plato said. The price that good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men.
And I think somewhere on this platform, one of our men who actually established this platform, Stephen E. Keller, somewhere watching you, I think he's very happy to hear that quotation. That's one of his favorite things to say. Always pushing people that we all got to go back to Liberia and try to do some sort of work in the country.
So we just have to come back. We got to come out now and build system. Let system work.
Yeah.
Void of too much power centered around the individual. Let system work, like in America, like in Europe. When you flout your driving rules and the police issue you ticket and they put point on your license, you know what happens to you. So let it be the same in Liberia. When the police stops you, you know there's an authority. And let it be in Liberia that when the man commits a crime, it will not be only the person that your uncle or the other people did it before. No, let system work. And that's why the social contract has 9 counts. We say to all of you, our people, we have not even translated the data that I just talked about in our layman English so that everyone can better understand in a way that 9 counts that say you if you want me to vote for you, when it comes to the community, all of you should have copy of the social contract now. Let them write their names and sign it. President, if Vice President Boaka comes to you, President Weah comes to you, Madam Vice President Jua Hawatila comes to you and say, vote for me. The form is there. The social contract is there for President and Vice President. And say, you want me to vote for you? All right, yes. This is a social contract. Do you agree that going forward, you respect every good tenets of democracy in terms of the right of a person to free speech, the rights of a person to free association, such that You will not be branding people as enemy of government because they belong to other parties. Because you were the same people who were in opposition and served in the previous administration, including the Minister of Finance. So we need to stop branding people. If they don't support your political party, respect people for the decision. And then also, do you want to kill people, especially professional people? Why they do service to country? 5, almost 6 of our professionals lost their life, beginning with Mr. Ines from the Central Bank of Liberia. He was the first person on this 25 million mop-up exercise whose life was taken away because he stood and said, I was not party to any record, so I can write a report. And they went after him, they killed him. That's somebody I work with closely in my years of service at the Central Bank. His life was taken. Gifty Lamas, Albert Peters, auditors who were investigating another 25 million situation regarding it. 50 million came from IMF and it took 25 million and said we're going to give people food during the COVID and distribute food. Again, the people did an audit work and the audit work said the 25 million was not properly used. They went after those people and killed them in a discharge of service to country. Extrajudicial killings right before our eyes. It has to stop. We have to rise up. And that's what we're saying. There has to be zero tolerance to extrajudicial killings, zero tolerance to corruption. If anybody steals or anybody found wanting of creating economic crimes, let the law pursue those people. And if they're found guilty, then they must pay according to the law. Or if they are found not guilty, then they go free. And let there be zero tolerance on drugs and substance abuse. See the new thing happening in our country with our brothers and sisters, they call them Zogos. Those people are not Zogos or Zogi, and they should not be calling them. They are just underprivileged. You've just like myself, I was. We were in one point in time. We were just like those people. They need attention. That's why I'm calling even on the church. Let us not wait for government any longer. Let's begin to rise up in our own ways and begin to just to identify with our brothers and sisters who are on the street. They need help. They need help. What can we do? So we must begin to take some practical action. So in my very chat room like this morning, I call on, there's a clip. You see a guy butting the pole.
Mm-hmm.
And people stand up and just watching him. Nobody can go to help that guy. So I asked the question, why if that was your brother or your sister, will you stand and just see him destroy himself? No help.
Yeah.
Because of the drug that they are under. The door of Liberia now is considered as a floodgate to drug trafficking. It has to stop. This was not the case 6 or 7 or 8 years ago. We didn't have the proliferation of many of our brothers and sisters calling them Zogos and Zogis. It has to stop. But who will rise up for the innocent if we all just sit and fold our hands? The time has come that we must now begin to hold our national leaders to high standard. Zero tolerance on human trafficking, another issue confronting our country. And then we say the salaries going forward that lawmakers should receive. We say let there be a cap on the president not making more than 8,000, vice president not more than 6,000, and then cap the salaries for lawmakers, and that of the Supreme Court justices not to be above 6,000, what the vice president should be earning, and savings from all of those. You can imagine what it means for capital expenditure as a share of our national budget. So to just increase every other year by 10%, 20%, and say maybe like in honor president said a capital expenditure will have increased it by almost 50%. What is 50% or even 40% of 4.8 billion? You're talking about nothing less than 2 billion. If you take 2 billion in Liberia and just put it in, say, GFK, buy MRI equipment, make sure you support human capital development, meaning send some doctors for heart problem, ear problem, nose problem, specialized areas in health. That you put money in there, in no time we will leapfrog. You put money in agriculture, say just give agriculture, just say some 100 million or 200 million on core capital expenditure. So that means you buy machine for agriculture production, you investing in the soil in terms of fertilizer, you investing in farm related equipment for the farmers. In no time, Liberia shall become the breadbasket for West Africa.
I was waiting for you to say in no time Liberia shall rise.
In no time, Liberia shall rise.
Go. But I tell you what, Honorable Minister, we definitely have to bring you back. We have to end this conversation on a very happy note. I have another brother here on this particular platform who that's exactly his passion. He would talk about the political, he would play with the numbers and all these different things. And Mr. Sapalusi, I would definitely arrange for you to come back. Let's do another segment and let's just look at the numbers. As we get closer to elections, we are going to have these conversations taking place on a weekly basis as we get closer. But it has been a pleasure to hear your story and to hear from you. And I just hope that your story has inspired more of our viewers and more people in Liberia. Because when you guys take that office and when you are back there in your office, it is not every day that every day people can hear your voice.
Correct.
It's not every day that people know exactly what that office is doing, what's happening back there. But the fact that you can come in and share some of these ideas and let us know exactly what happened behind those closed doors that we are not privy to, I think we'd like to know a little bit more. But what is really, really exciting to hear is the simple fact that you were never born with this silver spoon
Golden
in your
spoon,
mouth.
man.
You work hard for everything you got, and just like you said, you have been blessed to be elevated at different levels. So I just really want you to take maybe a minute or two and speak to a lot of our young people in Liberia. I was in Liberia. I just came back from Liberia in April, and there are so many people who have graduated, and some of them they're still selling cold water. And I don't say that to degrade anyone. They are ready to work. The workforce is ready, but the opportunities are not there. And most people they have just gotten discouraged. Most of our young people they are prostituting themselves because this is how they can live. Most of them they are doing things that their parents will not be proud of, but that's what they have to do to live. So talk to our young people as we close here, maybe a minute or two, and just give someone hope, give someone encouragement, and just let them know exactly what they can look up to, and just if they kept that fire burning.
I say to you, my brothers and sister, this face you see can be you or even a better you. I repeat again, this face you see, Boima as Kamara, could be you or a better you. And that's my prayer for you. And as long as I shall live, we will stand in your defense. We will never be silent again on anything that relates to improving the betterment of our nation, Liberia. It is dear to us. We have no other country but Liberia. Our second stanza of the national anthem says, in union strong, success is sure. We cannot fail. With heart and hands, our country calls defending. There is a cause, and we shall meet the foe with valor unpretending. God being our help, at God's command. You, our brothers that they are calling Zogos and Zogi, we love you. God loves you. Above all, there is a future for you. And Liberia shall rise again when our streets shall be free of you who have been labeled as Zogo and Zogi, but they shall see you as a shining star again, whose life God has turned around. There is a sunshine for you. There is a sunshine for you who are riding Pempe, because there will be opportunities for you beyond just riding Pempe. We'll try to find $10 to $20 million in our very budget and allocate it as emergency fund for all of you and create a pilot project in Morovia where you will be part of a production of what will sell to our market. So the tomato pepper will find a production farm and just start that as a pilot where you will have access to housing, you will have access to medical benefit, and at least an income of nothing less than 150. And we are even pushing for an average income across civil service to not be less than $300. And the civil service at this point in time, we're talking about a future where people will choose whether they won't go to private sector to work, where there will be greater incentive and better livelihood and less of government. And that's our prayer. And Liberia is getting there. Yes, I agree. Liberia shall rise. Shalom.
All right. Honorable Minister Boima S. Kamara, we thank you so much for taking your time to join us today on this afternoon, just to tell your story, to make the Liberian people to get to know you, and take hope in the story, and just to give us this hope that, look, if you work hard, it does not matter where you are. If you work hard, the rest, God is going to take care of it, and you are also going to be able to be elevated. We thank you for sharing your time with us, and we look forward to having you another time. God bless you and your family, and please stay safe. Our regards to the family as well, sir.
Thank you. The same from us to you, Augustine. Shalom.
Thank you. All right, friends. So that's how we are going to end this edition of This Could Be You. You heard the story of former Minister Boima S. Kamara, who actually inherited the office back in 2016, just when the Salif administration was leaving office. And as you listen to his story, it is very obvious that this is a bright man, someone who has some beautiful ideas, brilliant ideas. But one of the things that jump out to me as I listen to his story is just something I've heard before. Someone who goes in the office and try to effect change, and now the system is turning against him because he will not support the corruption, he will not support the negativity that were in the office, and he wants to do things by the book. And you find that people start attacking him. Before you know it, his life could have been one of those life cut short had the Almighty God not protected him while he was in our office. And I do understand these are some of the issues that make people weak to go back to serve the country. Many times you ask the question, why don't you come home to serve Liberia? But not everybody who wants to come to Liberia and serve in a system that is corrupt and to remain corrupt. People want to come back to contribute and to be able to go home with a very clear conscience and not be part of a system that will encourage corruption. And so we are very grateful that even within government sector, there are still people like himself, people like him who will actually stand up for truth and try to push for people to benefit, for the Liberian people to benefit. So we thank him for telling his story. And next week, we are going to be back here and we are going to be having another beautiful show for you. And we look forward to seeing you on Sunday at 2 p.m. Central next week. Stay safe. God bless you and your families. And we will look forward to seeing you in a week. Stay soon.